Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mewing for Beginner series. So we talked about what proper tongue posture is, what mewing is. In this video, I'm going to talk about how did we get into this position. As in, if our tongues are supposed to be on the roof of our mouth, why aren't they? What is it that's preventing our tongues from being where they're supposed to be? How did we get into this position as a society? So I'm going to be talking about 4 main causes of poor tongue posture in this video. Now these obviously aren't all of them. These are just what I've found and what I think are the 4 main causes. The first is going to be our diet in modern society and a lot of soft foods. The second thing that I'm going to be talking about is mouth breathing and the effects of breathing through our mouth instead of our nose. Then I'm going to go into poor posture and how that affects our tongue posture. And finally, I'm going to briefly talk about tongue ties and how if you have a tongue tie, that could impact your tongue posture as well. One of the quotes from the book Jaws that I've been reading and that I talked about in previous videos is that our jaws are built for a Stone Age environment, but we're living in a Big Mac environment. So roughly 10,000 years ago, our hunter-gatherer ancestors were forced to eat a lot of food, a lot of tough food to get their calories in. And Dr. Mike Mew talks a lot about this as well. In today's society, we have the luxury of eating a lot of soft foods with a lot of high calories in them, such as burgers, fast food, smoothies, protein shakes. Essentially, this means that we don't have to chew as much. In one of Mike Mew's videos, what he says is we're using our muscles of mastication, or chewing muscles, about 3% as much as our hunter-gatherer ancestors had to use them. The problem with this is that our jaws are not growing properly because these muscles of mastication and our tongue and cheek muscles are not getting the proper exercise and development that they need. And this especially affects developing and younger kids. If all they eat is applesauce and peanut butter and things like that, then they're not getting the exercise and development that they need for those jaws to develop properly. So one of the closing points on this chapter in the book is that the tougher the food and the more you chew, the more exercise those muscles get and the better your jaw development gets. But I actually think there's something else involved as well. Because what I've noticed is that when you exercise these muscles here, it makes it easier for you to keep your jaw closed, since these are the muscles responsible for opening and closing your jaw. So if it's easier to close your mouth and your mouth stays more naturally closed, it's going to be easier for you to keep your tongue up. On the reverse side, if these muscles are not strengthened properly, it's going to be easier for your jaw to be open in an open position, which is called mouth breathing, which is what I'm going to get into now. When we open our mouths to breathe, what happens is our tongues can't be on the roof of your mouth. If you open your mouth, you have to bring your tongue down to breathe. If you have a child or a person who's mouth breathing for the majority of the time, or mouth breathing all night, that means that they don't have their tongue on the roof of their mouth. Now, in the not so recent history of human beings, we made a big change that really affected our ability to breathe through our nose. Moving inside. So before the agricultural revolution, we were forced to move around from place to place to find our food. Now, with these advances in agriculture and technology, we've been able to build these elaborate structures that we now call our homes. But with this came an impact to our breathing for several reasons. Firstly, allergens such as molds, furry household pets, and various microorganisms meant that our noses were going to get stuffed up much more easily. Enclosed spaces such as classrooms allowed for things like the common cold to be transferred much more easily. Also, roughly 10% of children in the US suffer from asthma, which makes these prolonged periods even longer. Now, this actually happened to me. As a kid, I was a mouth breather, and the funny thing is I don't know why. I don't know if it was because I had a stuffed nose or because I had allergies. I really don't know. But all I know is that if mouth breathing becomes a habit and it's something something that you do at a young age, it can cause a lot of problems. Because as I said, if your tongue is not on the roof of your mouth, that's going to lead to worse development of your jaw and airway and several other problems. And if you're habitually mouth breathing, your tongue is not on the roof of your mouth. Now, the statistic in the book that's quite scary is that it's estimated that roughly 50% of children in the US have been found to be mouth breathers and to be mouth breathing. And I actually believe that there's something that has been making this even worse in society, which brings me to point number 3, which is technology. Now, as I said, I believe that generationally, these problems are becoming worse, and Mike Mew talks a lot about that also. And one of the main reasons is because of posture, the way that we live, the way that we work, this position, and I'm going to explain why, but another reason is because of technology. Now, I grew up as a 90s baby, so I was introduced to technology such as video games and cell phones when I was like 14, 15, 16. But at the time, this is what we were using. We were using Blackberries, which meant that all we could really do on this is like call, text, maybe send a BBM, but nothing in comparison to the hours and hours that we are now spending looking down at our phones. And especially if you can imagine, if you have a young child, or if you are a young child and you're spending hours of time in this slouched over position, that is going to have a permanent effect on your posture. But it also affects your tongue posture, and now I'm going to explain why. See, the more forward your head goes in front of your body, the more difficult it is for your tongue to engage on the upper palate. Now, the reason for this can be explained pretty easily. See, when your head comes forward, it also has to rotate backwards. This is because you need to see where you're going. When you have forward head posture, your head automatically goes down, but you can't look at the floor, you have to look up, so you rotate your head as well. And when you rotate your head like that, what happens is now your palate is not level with the ground anymore. Now your palate is tilted upwards, making it more difficult for your tongue to reach up on the roof of your mouth. So again, improving your forward head posture and technology and having forward head posture is one major cause of poor tongue posture. Alright, now the fourth and final thing that is going to cause poor tongue posture is a tongue tie. Now, I'm not going to get too much into this. I have a video on tongue ties that you can watch. Just to basically summarize it, if you have a severe tongue tie, that means your tongue is lacking mobility, meaning that your tongue can't really go up off the roof of your floor, your mouth. So if your tongue can't reach your upper palate, obviously your tongue can't be in its proper position. That in and of itself is going to cause issues. So the fourth thing is a tongue tie. Now, to wrap this all up, really guys, what it comes down to a lot of times is a chicken or an egg scenario. It can be a lot of different things that could potentially cause poor tongue posture. If you breathe through your mouth and you don't have proper tongue posture, your palate is going to narrow. This makes it even more difficult to breathe through the roof, through your nose. It makes it even more difficult to have good tongue posture, and it makes your posture worse. As I've said, all these things also cause poor tongue posture. So it can be a vicious circle, and it can be difficult to really determine which of these things has caused your poor tongue posture or somebody else's. So guys, I know that this video was kind of a bit doom and gloom, you know, talking about problems and what the issues are and all this, but in the next video, I'm going to be giving you guys my ultimate guide to improving your tongue posture and everything I've learned, and really the things that I think that you need to think about from what I've learned from the dentists that I've talked to, from working with them, and from the research that I've done and experimented on myself. So look forward to that video, and thanks for watching this one, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.